started because we are right on time. And I just want to say a welcome to today's webinar hosted by Travefy Academy with four amazing panelists who are going to share so much of their Disney and travel industry expertise with us during this uncertain time, given the impact of COVID-19 and really just what the future will hold for the travel industry. So I'm going to introduce them in just a minute, but I just want to take a moment really quick to just thank each and every one of you for joining us here today. We hope this webinar will help give you ideas to continue to build your business and prepare for travel's big comeback during this time, because we all know it's going to happen. So we want to get prepared for it. So what we want to do here at Travefy Academy is pull together a panel of experts from different backgrounds who can share their own tips and guidance on how we can all navigate this really weird and tricky time. So thank you again for joining us here today. We hope this is really helpful and valuable to you. But before I go any further, I do want to quickly introduce myself. So anyone who's new to Travefy Academy, welcome to the webinar. My name is Stephanie Grice, and I'm the Senior Client Champion and Education Coordinator here at Travefy. Now, before we chat with our panelists, I do want to give you a quick overview of Travefy Academy and what to expect on today's webinar, just in case if this is the first time joining us, you'll know what to expect during this time together. So Travefy Academy is a free educational resource to further Travefy's mission to power the success of travel professionals. And our team here at Travefy has the privilege to work with thousands of amazing travel advisors and organizations daily, and have partnered with many of these industry experts and thought leaders to bring you powerful content and educational webinars to help you grow your business. So it's important to note that these webinars are not commercial in nature to specifically promote any of our industry speakers or panelists, including Travefy, in which Travefy Academy does not focus on Travefy's products. So you won't see us in Travefy's software today. Instead, we're focusing on the industry. And we just want to say, again, thanks for joining us. And you can find more Travefy Academy webinars and articles at academy.travefy.com. So head there, and afterwards, you'll see more from this webinar on there too. So now, before I introduce our panelists, officially the last thing that I have to say is webinar housekeeping. Just wanted to mention a couple things here. That first, this webinar is being recorded. So there will be an email sent to everyone afterward with a link to watch the replay. So if you had a friend or colleague who signed up, couldn't make it, don't worry, they're gonna get an email. You can also forward it to anyone as well and watch that recording. I also want to mention that there is that question box in your GoToWebinar panel that you can use. So at the end, we hope to have some time for questions. So feel free, put those questions, comments in there. And Scott Rutz from our team is in the back end, and he'll be helping answer those questions as well too. Now, with all of that, I am excited to introduce each of our panelists joining here today. So first up is Stephen Giuliano, who's the president of Extra Magic Trips. And then we have Jennifer Lennox, president of Simply Enchanted Travel. And then we have Jen Novotny, who's the founder of Upon a Star Travel Concierge. And then we have Allison Weaver, CEO of Kingdom Concierge. So thank you all panelists for being here today. We are really excited that you took some time out of your really hectic, busy schedule to just talk with us here today and help answer questions that we all have.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, so for our attendees, to let you know how this is going to work. So we only have 60 minutes today. Wish we had more time to hang out, but we just have 60 minutes carved out. So I will start diving in here on those questions. But what we're going to do is we're going to have our panelists answer these questions. And then, of course, if you do have questions, the attendees, feel free to ask us in that question box, and then hopefully we have time to get there as well. And then panelists, once again, too, feel free to chime in at any point if you have an answer to a question we start talking about as well. But now, for the moment we've been waiting for, let's get this going. So for question number one, and Jen, I'm going to go to you first. Okay. So the first question, all advisors, so not just Disney, just all advisors are facing all sorts of obstacles right now. But what are the biggest challenges that you have seen specific to selling Disney right now?
I think the biggest challenge would be the uncertainty. And typically, I mean, for the most part, it's COVID related. And it's not just, I'm afraid to travel. I'm afraid, that I'm going to get the virus. I'm, at risk. Of course, at risk people, that's completely understandable. But in a lot of cases, it's, hey, we want to travel, but my employer says we have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Or my kid's school, like I have kids in different schools, they might have to quarantine. We're just not sure if we can feasibly do that. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges we're facing, aside from some airlift issues as well, getting places with the canceled flights. Um, so a lot of it, I think, is just fear of the unknown and the whole quarantine issue. And then, of course, there is also a fear of traveling. And in that case, those people, they do need to probably stay home, quite honestly, if that's something they're afraid of. But yeah, that's a big challenge. And then specifically because Disney's such a large product to sell and could be a lot of people. So that's a big challenge right now.
Yeah, I think relaying the safety of the parks to the
Hmm.
clients, because not all of us have gone down there yet. It's been so helpful to have had some agents down there in the park so they can
Hmm.
easily relay the safety to the clients, but also just the fact that the magic is still there. It just looks different,
Hmm.
and that's been one of my biggest challenges is to say the magic is there. It's just
Hmm.
it looks a little different.
Hmm.
And I've seen with a lot of our clients, Alvin, when you say the magic is still there, it's not only convincing them that the magic is there, but showing them how the magic might be a little different. And for a lot of people, Disney can certainly be a very expensive trip. A
Hmm.
lot of people look at it as maybe a once in a lifetime, and I'm going to go all out and spend a ton of money. And they want to make sure that if they're doing that, they're getting their bang for their buck. They're getting
Hmm.
that kind of pre-COVID experience, which so it's kind of setting expectations, I think, a little bit too. And I we always strive to make sure that everyone who goes knows exactly what to expect.
Hmm.
And I think right now it's a bit of a tough sell when you say there's no fireworks, no parades, a lot of the things that Disney is known for. Like, yes, it's still a theme park, it's still got a ton of rides, but it's those things that make Disney unique that are not necessarily lacking right now, but just different. And that's been, I think, a tough sell for a lot of our clients.
Part of what, along with that, I just returned on Saturday from a trip that
Hmm.
started as 7 nights because I didn't think I'd want to be there. As long as, I mean, not that 7 nights is nothing, but I had kind of planned for 7 nights as long as I got home. And one of the things about everybody's airline policies and being able to, I was able to change my flights with Delta not once but twice because we were having a great time. And that, I know that if you don't want to say what it's related to, you just want to say I need to make a change and they'll make the change. And I extended our trip 2 times. We spent more time at Disney and then we did spend 6 nights at Universal. So now what looked unprecedented is now precedented for us.
Hmm.
We can say we have
Hmm.
experienced these things and here's what it looks like. There is, they did a great job with bringing the characters to
They
life and
really did.
around. They were everywhere and you could really see them. No, you couldn't touch them and you could, but you could do
Hmm.
fun selfies with them, photobombing in the background, or you could do, it was different, but it was there.
Hmm.
I think actually some of the things that they're doing now are really cool.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
like seeing the stepsisters walking around on the balcony of Cinderella Castle, like that blew my mind when
It
I
was
saw that.
fabulous.
I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Like, because I think in the back of my head I've always been like, oh, it's just a set piece. It's not a real castle.
Hmm.
And then you see people walking up there, you're like, that's a real castle. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think communicating those things to the clients has been a challenge too, because unless you're there to witness it and put it out there, it can be difficult to put that out there. So,
Yeah, that is really cool. I didn't realize they were doing that. That's
hmm.
awesome. And so, do any of you have an example of a client that came and you were able to work with them and find something else to replace? Because I know pretty much every one of you, I know that when I was talking to you before this, that you've all kind of had the similar situation of the client really wants to be able to see their favorite princess and touch them, you know, and they can't do that. But then there's also the other side of where they can actually, there's less people, they won't have to stay in line so long. So do any of you have any real life examples of clients where you were able to get to a point where they still did want to go?
I actually have a client who's down there right now. They were supposed to go, well, they were first supposed to go in October. Then that dance competition got canceled. They're like, oh, let's just go in July. And they're like, no, we're just not comfortable. We're not going to go in July. They saw my trip pictures and they said, you know what, we're going to go. We're like, I love what you posted. We're going to do it. And they're having a great time right now with the low lines and everything. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of my answers to agents and then even to clients is, if this is your first visit, and even though you expected all of this to happen and it's not kind of happening, is your daughter going to know that she was going to get to hug Cinderella before? She will not know the difference if this is their first trip. It's going to be amazing when they get there, whether they touch Cinderella or they wave at Cinderella. So it's still going to be magical. And I think just relaying that is helpful. But to answer your question too, you know, I'm noticing my veteran clients that have been before, they're all about it. They want to go ride rides. They want to ride soaring back to back to back. My clients with older kids. And even my honeymooners that are not getting to go to the Caribbean, you know, I'm getting them in the parks. So that is something that I have had success with.
That's really cool. And that's great that, yeah, there is that, you know, working on which side. So those are all really great points of just the different type of challenges that I know everyone's really kind of facing right now and just how to overcome those in a way or try. But now I want to talk about Disney products that are selling and just kind of see what type of inquiries you're seeing right now. So Allison, I'm going to go to you here on what types of Disney products are you seeing success in for bookings right now and into the future?
Right. I think by default, I mean, Walt Disney World is the only product that is offering anything for us right now. But so of course, rooms, tickets, I've done some ticket onlys. I've had a lot of interest in the VIP tours, which this is a great time to sell a VIP tour because fast passes are no longer there. And so your high-end client that, you know, wants a little extra special attention, but still front of the line access. And it's commissionable. So, I mean, I think that that's something we should all look at. It can be a really successful product. To switch gears just a little bit, I mean, Disney Cruise Line, although they're not selling right now, 2021 looks to be a big year. So even though I've lifted and shifted most of those over to 2020, from 20 to 2021, I am getting new interest. I feel like it's going to be a big product.
That's awesome. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Stephanie.
I was actually going to go to you next, actually. So, because I know that you had also mentioned that cruise lines are booking for fall 2021 for you as well. So can you explain what type of clients are you finding that are interested in this and how are you marketing to them right now?
So definitely our frequent cruisers, like our people who are fans of cruise lines anyway, they're 100% ready. They'd go tomorrow, quite honestly, if the cruises were selling. They'd be like, yeah, get me on a ship. But yeah, we're definitely seeing our repeat cruisers. Also, a couple of weddings that we have scheduled on ships. Whenever DCL came out for 2021 fall, we booked a wedding the first day, like 15 staterooms, first wedding. So yeah, people who love the Caribbean, weddings, honeymoons, actually even one that's I don't want to call it rehearsal dinner, but kind of a rehearsal thing before the wedding. They're doing a group cruise, which is cool. Also, I guess I would say not a lot of first time cruisers at this point, at least for us. I'm sure others maybe you're seeing something different, but the pricing, I think maybe that you guys would all agree, I think the pricing is pretty darn good right now from what I've seen. So a lot of people wanting to jump on board with that.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, the pricing, they're trying to get people in there and in that pent up demand that are already comfortable about it. And they're like, get me on the next ship out.
Yeah,
exactly.
They're chomping.
Yeah. So we just talked about, all the different products right now in the Disney portfolio, but one of the big questions that a lot of agents have is how to handle that client communication and questions. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So Jennifer, what have you found are the best ways to help answer questions from concerned clients right now?
Really just to know what's happening. If you can stay on top of what's happening down there and be aware of the protocol in place, and having just experienced it, that helps a lot, because I can say, yeah, there's the hand sanitizing stations and the hand washing stations, that the cast members are making sure people have the masks covering their mouth and nose. So, I do tend to think the people going, like Jen said, if they go tomorrow on a cruise, these are the same people that are in the parks right now, they'll go. And I don't know that they're all as concerned about the mask covering the nose, but Disney's making sure it happens so that those who maybe are very much more concerned about that can feel like it's being monitored and taken care of. So just being there and seeing what's happening, and watching an escalator railing. Multiple times I would see somebody, a cast member, there with a spray bottle and just letting the railing run under their hand with the disinfectant. It wasn't just one time I saw that. I saw that over and over. The cleaning that's happening everywhere. I think you can just address it with, if you haven't been personally, you know somebody on your team who has been, who can answer those questions and maybe give you what you need to know to relate to them. But staying on top of that, I think, is key, so that they can know currently what's going on as a protective measure.
Jennifer, as you were talking, I couldn't help but think, that story about the railing on the escalator, that's a great story. And, I think as agents, we get caught up in emails and texts, and there's a lot of typing going on. But for your client to hear that story from your mouth, like, there's something about just getting them on the phone, letting them hear your warm voice, you smiling, the confidence that you have, and you saw that happen. I mean, and so I think that's something too, like just answering questions. Sometimes it's just going to require another 30-minute phone call to just ease their mind a little bit.
Definitely, just hearing your voice say, this is what's happening, and how confident you are. That's huge. Thanks.
Yeah, and actually, Stephen, that's what I was going to talk to you about next, is literally just that, is because you had talked about you get a lot of email inquiries and you try to get face-to-face if you can, virtually, obviously, or text messaging or phone calls. Can you share a little bit more about what communication has been like you and what you're really finding that's helping?
Sure. So technology has kind of, I think, always been a travel agent's best friend, something that you always have somewhere. But the use of technology at our agency and at quite a few others that I've talked to has really skyrocketed in the face of the pandemic. So I always recommend to all of my agents that they try to set up a video conference, a FaceTime, a Zoom, whatever it may be, with the person, because we can't go and visit in person right now. But having that face-to-face connection is really important. But oddly, in a way enough, something that I've been finding is more and more of my clients who are just like, you know what, let's just do a regular phone call, please. I sit on Zoom all day. The last thing I want to do is sit on Zoom for another meeting right now, which I totally understand. So back in, I think it was about March or April, just like as the pandemic was just starting out, I thought this is a great time to change our entire phone system for the travel agency. I was kind of crazy to do it at the time because there were a million other things happening. But in hindsight, honestly, one of the best things that we did. So we switched from having everyone using their own phone or using Google Voice or something like that to having a phone system for the entire agency that allows voicemails, text messages, Facebook messages, emails, and did I say text messages? Everything to get pulled into one platform. So look at things like that. It has so helped my sanity. I can be texting with a client from this computer, so I can obviously respond much quicker on my physical keyboard than I can using my thumbs on my phone. And all the while doing that, see in a little panel on the right-hand side that I talked to this client 2 days ago on the phone. There's this email from the client that I got a week ago, and just having that all in one place and just kind of a click away has really helped us providing service to the clients, because we all get information from so many different sources. And I can't tell you previously how many times I've been like, okay, I know I talked to this person about this. It's not in my email. Now I got to go over here to my phone and check to see, was it a text message? No. Okay, maybe it was Facebook. Maybe it was Instagram. There's just so many places of information. So to have them all be able to be pulled into one like main dashboard has been super, super helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense too, because and with everything changing, I'm sure there's a lot of people who just have these quick questions. They want answers, quick, and yeah, lots going on. So that makes a ton of sense. And those are really great, amazing tips on, how to communicate the best that you can and answer those questions from clients. But now I want to get into a topic that's been a little tricky for a lot of advisors during this time. It has literally changed from every webinar that we've had since March. The answer kind of starts to change a little bit, which is marketing. We want to talk about marketing. So Allison, I want to start with you. So how are you currently marketing to clients, and what are you finding that's currently working?
Okay. Well, if you had asked this pre-COVID, right, it would be very different.
Yes.
But I've really focused on my warm leads. So those people who had trips scheduled for 2020 and needed to cancel, I focused more on directly contacting them with, every few weeks with an email, with an update, with news. And I've done that more so than with social media. I think I might have seen one too many webinars this summer that said, go at your own pace with the social media during this time. And I'm kind of taking that to heart. I don't know that that's the right steps, but I felt like warm leads versus cold leads might be my best bet, because those people had intentions of going. They had it all planned out. And so why not start there? So that's something that that I've done to market. And then, of course, I had a note here. Anybody that was already booked, even if it wasn't for Disney, or maybe it was for Disney and it didn't get to happen, I have worked on pivoting them to a different product. So I've been marketing things that they can do. So I thought that was important, because I want them to go to Disney, right? But we are a full service travel agency and I want to have them as a client for lifetime. So if I can easily pivot them into something else, that brightens their day and helps their outlook. So that's been my other strategy for marketing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Jennifer, we kind of already touched on this, but I was actually going to bring up, because we were just talking about this a couple questions ago, but talking about, highlighting the safety. And I know that that's really been helping, keep clients up to date. So have you been just sharing a lot of social media, or how are you using that to highlight everything, or basically the safety?
It was great to see what was happening and to make sure that you noted it and noted within social media while traveling, but also taking photos for the coming days, because when you're not there, it's great to have those to go back to. So letting people know the safety measures in place. And we did kind of touch on a lot of that, but it is important for those who are not sure. There are people who would go today, people who have already been, and people who are just not sure that they ought to be. And so, of course, that final decision rests on their comfort level. But if you can show what's in place and that it actually feels so much safer. I hear a lot of people say this, but it's true. It felt so much safer than a grocery store. Everything was clean. Yeah, you can tell Jen agrees with that. It was just very, you go in your grocery store and people are kind of doing the thing, but they're not, they just want to get in and get out. With Disney, it's all kinds of, whether it's everywhere, the hand washing and the cast members checking on you and making sure that everybody's kind of following the social distancing and keeping things. I was very impressed, and they need to be open and they need to do what they have to do to be open. So I felt like they were very conscientious about making sure that it was all working smoothly. And I didn't feel that it took away from, we did a character dining at Card and Grill, and they just had the guests on the lower level and the characters above. So you still saw them, you still could do photos. It was really well done, and all the mini parades and character kind of spontaneous greetings that happened really added an element that isn't even usually there. And it wasn't necessarily, I didn't necessarily feel like we were missing anything huge.
Yeah.
I know the social media marketing that I did do, because wasn't it really hard there for a while? Because, I took a more personal approach. Like, what I mean by that is we focused on our agency and what we could do for people, our value. We did a little fresher up of refresh of our logo and our website. Like, we took that time to kind of like say, okay, I know you can't go over here, but look at us. Look here what we do and what we can do for you and our value, and look how pretty this is. So we kind of like tried to focus on us. And I think too, like, if we can really compare ourselves to those big box stores or just booking online direct with these OTAs, like, there's a huge difference. And so even if we're at a loss for what Disney's giving us, maybe we run out of content or whatever, we can still always market our value.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a big focus of ours too, is just posting. We posted pictures of myself and another agent like waiting on hold for a client with like kind of a narrative of like, hey, so many people are having to do this right now, but you could let us do it for you, and time does equal money in every situation. And wouldn't you like to have that time back? At the beginning of the pandemic, some people might have said yes. Now maybe people are more willing to sit on hold. I'm not sure how bored people are, but
That is true. Yeah, that's the number one thing that we keep hearing is just the with travel's big comeback. First of all, everyone's going to be wanting to get out, but also the value of travel agents is being seen right now because of that. Yeah, so that's awesome that you put a picture of waiting on hold, because I even think even still being bored, I still don't know if that sounds fun. I don't know.
5 hours on hold is rough for anyone, I think.
Yeah.
We posted screenshots of like our call logs. Like, did you want to be the one making all these calls? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great marketing tip right there. So kind of going into with marketing and talking about the future of travel, I want to talk about 2021. So Jen, how are you currently positioning your business for 2021 right now?
So a few things that we're doing, and a lot of it has to do with the verbiage. So like, when you're ready, we're here. And talking about places they can visit in 2021, including Walt Disney World, highlighting those safety tips, including Disney Cruise Line. Even products that we sell the world as well. So, other products, but saying, and if you're ready, we're here for you. We've been here, we've been testing out these places, showing people that we are traveling successfully, that we have gone to these places. I was in World. Well, obviously we haven't been on a cruise, but I would. And then also, just saying, I would get on a cruise ship right now. That's fine. But then also highlighting the flexibility, because especially with Disney products, for the most part, unless it's an Adventures by Disney, they are very flexible with their cancellations. I mean, you can, and right now they've extended it through the end of 2020. Right now they're 7-day, cancellation. Like, listen, put down a $200 hold. It's refundable. If you're not comfortable come spring break or come next summer, you know what? We can change it. We can move it. There's not a penalty. You're going to be fine. And that kind of makes people feel better. Like, okay, I'm not out this money. I can still plan to do things I want to do. But if I'm too scared, or if my job says X, Y, and Z, we can move it. We can get our money back. So putting a lot of focus on 2021 for sure. Although certainly not discouraging people from traveling in 2020 if they're able and willing. So yeah, verbiage.
Yep, all the verbiage. And Stephen, I know when I was chatting with you, you spent a lot of time looking ahead in 2021 in hopes that the travel industry will come back strong. I really liked your positive insight. Can you tell us what your predictions are for 2021? What are you thinking? How are you getting ready for extra magic trips in 2021?
So I think so many people look at a travel agent as if we had this mythical crystal ball, which I wish, if anyone is actually producing those, please let me know. You have a market on lock. You have to send me your person, Allison. But my prediction is that, I know you keep saying like travel's big comeback. It's gonna happen. I would tend to think it's most likely going to happen domestically first. So we'll see a lot of more people willing to travel domestically, and also right now more countries willing to have us, but I think it's going to start domestically first, and so I've been using Disney as kind of the big pull for people to say like, hey, you might not be able to travel to Europe right now, but you can travel all over the place in Epcot, so why don't we try that out? So it's been different, but I think everyone is ready for the surge. I know I've been working with our team to make sure that same thing as what's already been said, but when you're ready, we're here. Um, and we know that everyone will be ready, and it's just a matter of us being ready to help you when you are ready to go.
Yeah, so safe to say everyone on this webinar is looking forward to 2021, seeing what the future holds. No crystal ball, but but we do know one thing is that travel will come back. People will go back. So with the lessons learned this year, which has been quite the year, I do want to highlight the point of protections in place for travel agencies. So Allison, I'll start with you first here. I know that you are implementing changes to how you and your agents charge clients. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Right. I mean, if we've learned anything from COVID, we have learned that a travel advisor, I mean, is very important. Like, we have value. And I think that can I get on a soapbox for 1 minute? These travel advisors that, that sell Disney, we're Disney travel agents, right? We've advertised ourselves as free for so long. And I really feel like we've done our industry a disservice. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but we work our tails off. The hours that we put into this product for planning, it's beyond any other product in our industry. And so, we have to remember, we have to shift our mind and know that we're professionals, we have experience, and also the hours of work that we will put in for these clients. And so I'm still on the soapbox for 1 more second. I just wish that, I'm speaking to you Disney travel agents out there, have a mind shift. Remember that planning and researching a trip is totally different than selling a product. And commission is our compensation from a supplier because we sold their product. That's just compensation. It has nothing to do with your research and planning. So that being said, I mean, we felt it this, 2020, it hurts. All these cancellations feel like a punch in the gut over and over again. And so what I've done for the agency is, because we were just like everybody else that was free, we have implemented a framework where our agents can choose to charge a research and planning fee. And I just wanted that to be there for them so they could use that, because they're worth every penny. And that way it's a little bit of insurance too. Like, if the client doesn't travel and we don't get the compensation from the supplier, it's okay. We've already done our work. The client knows we've done it, and we've gotten some kind of pay for our work. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and we've really been hearing that a lot on past Travefy Academy webinars for attendees on here today who have been on other ones. That is a very important topic of charging the fees, and it's only been amplified from this year. So that makes total sense. But Jennifer, I wanted to go to you next, because I know talking about fees, but also terms and conditions. I know that you already had them in place, but you're starting to add more structure for agents. So can you share what you're finding that works best for you and your agents?
For sure. We had a very general, every client payment was authorized, and they signed the, online waiver, and in there they accepted the supplier's terms and conditions, and we didn't take it a whole lot further than that. And in this, we have been working on really covering ourselves. We've seen where things can go so badly, and you can be liable or maybe liable, and hopefully you can get out of some of that liability by having laid out those terms much more clearly. So we're looking at introducing, I mean, we've been working on the wording and the structure of it, but it's going to be a whole lot more in depth than what we had before. And that's probably the biggest, client facing change that we're making due to what has happened and what we want to do going forward. But then we also have been, and I think so many people have been realizing our worth and how quickly it can turn, that you don't get paid for anything you did, and you have to undo all of it. And so the charging fees is definitely a conversation that we're having too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you so much, both of you, for giving us a little glimpse into your agency right now and navigating these changes and still, the old processes and still redefining those. So hopefully those are helpful tips for attendees on here too, and help other travel advisors as well. But now I want to go into the next question here. So talking with your agents and talking to other agents is kind of the topic of this question. So Jennifer, you've been providing meetings for your agents to coach them on how to best use terms and conditions and fees. So you kind of mentioned this, but how is that going so far for your team? Are you having a lot of questions that you have to answer, or basically how is that going for you and your team right now?
It's going well. It's largely been within the admin structure so far that we've been working on that. So it hasn't rolled out to the team fully. The admin has been researching, what we can find from other agencies and in the legal aspect, and looking at the COVID specifically, health waivers and that kind of thing. So within the top, the structure there, it's been helpful to have the meeting of the minds, have all of us working on that. And then once we produce that, we'll, which is this week with our agents, then I'm sure we'll have a lot more questions or input too. That is always valuable, but we'll have the larger piece of it ready to go.
Yeah, sure, they'll be always revolving there. And Jen, you had mentioned to me previously that you're using this time to keep learning and training with technology to be ready once travel comes back in full force. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you and your team have been focusing on?
Yeah, definitely. So we are doing very frequent meetings. In fact, for a while they were weekly. They're probably bi-weekly at this point, but Zoom trainings and screen share so that we can show things like our CRM system and Travefy, because we do use Travefy, and doing like best practices and training on that for some of our agents, because it's not mandated for people who are opting to use that system. But then even further, talking about best practices on social media, encouraging that, and then even as far as new products, because right now, especially when the parks were closed and no Disney product was open, training on different destinations, re-upping certifications, making sure that people are comfortable if they are a person who's wanting to expand their knowledge into other markets. So really focusing in on that, in the all-inclusive space, knowing that that was going to be something like in Mexico that can grow, which I know it's not Disney specific, but that also is maintaining a clientele, because we find people want to go to Disney one year, then they might want some sort of a beach vacation and not leaving money on the table. So trying to really expand our knowledge of that. And then also just maintain that team atmosphere is so super important, whenever everything is upside down and crazy.
Yeah. Have some communication a little bit.
Yeah,
that's what we do. Yeah, like we have our happy hour over Zoom and just look forward to those. It's like, yes, events, something is scheduled on my calendar right now. No, totally hear that. And Stephen, I know that you're finding great help from other agency owners. So how are you staying in touch right now?
Yeah, so something that, I think this was a huge benefit. Our DSM from Disney before COVID had kind of established these groups of other local agency owners. And we would get together quarterly in person and just discuss things that we're working on, kind of very similar to this, like talk about best practices, things like that. When COVID started, we shifted to that group being more of a virtual group. We would get together on Zoom. Originally, it was weekly with other specifically agency owners. And I think that was super beneficial to be able to bounce ideas off of each other and throw things out there. Facebook groups are great. You just never know in a Facebook group, there's so many people, you're going to get a breadth of different opinions, and everyone knows that someone has an opinion and everyone's not going to agree with that. But what I found that has worked really well. So this is a local group all in we're based in central Pennsylvania. So it's in the Pennsylvania area. And we have this small Facebook group. There's, I believe, 10 or 11 of us total, and all in the same local area. So that allows us to really discuss things that may be more relevant to where we are regionally. And I found that to be super helpful. So like I said, that the credit for that totally goes to our DSM at Disney. She's the one who kind of hooked us all up in the first place, got us together, and then we've just kind of taken it from there and still keep in touch with each other. We've stopped doing the weekly meetings because as things have started reopening, we've had a lot more on our plate as far as working with clients and adjusting reservations and booking new reservations and all of that. But we still keep in touch through Facebook and in various different ways to kind of bounce ideas and share opinions and things that are working for us with other owners. And I found that to be hugely helpful for us.
Yeah, and also probably reminds you too, you're not alone. There's other going through the
Absolutely.
same. Yeah, that's what I
And
hope this
in the
webinar
same
is like.
area, we could give virtual fives, and
Yeah.
looking forward to getting back out there and actually meeting in person again.
Exactly. Yeah, and this has been so helpful and informative. So thank you everyone for those great answers and insight into your day-to-day and what you're dealing with. But before I get to the audience's questions here, I just want to ask you all here are there any final thoughts that anyone would like to say or something important that we haven't covered here today yet?
I think one thing I want to touch on quickly is don't get discouraged. I know there are a lot of both agents and agency owners that are like, we never saw anything like this before. We obviously didn't see anything like this coming, and took us by surprise. And I don't know how to handle this, or I don't know how to pivot my business. And that's I hate seeing that, because I think if we can all just kind of work past the getting discouraged phase and work towards what's next, and really the things that we've been talking about here, and the future of travel, I really do firmly believe is strong. People, especially after being home for as long as everyone has been, people are gonna want to get out there. So don't get discouraged. Try to stay positive and take this time that might be quieter than you've experienced in the past, and use it to do the things that we've all been talking about, and investing in your business and making changes and evaluating your terms and conditions and looking at new technologies that might help make your job easier in the long run. So this kind of period of downtime can actually be a huge asset to everyone.
I think I would say don't be afraid. And I know there's a lot of scary things out there, but don't be afraid in every sense. Don't be afraid to pivot your business. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to talk about travel, because there is some travel shaming going on out there. And if people are uncomfortable, I mean, that's fine, and they're totally entitled to be that way. But if you are someone who's comfortable with travel, I mean, that's what we do in this space. So don't be afraid to say, hey, yeah, I went here and I had a great time. I went to the beach. I had a great time, whatever that travel looks like for you, because fear can be paralyzing. And that's one thing that can really stop you in your tracks if you let in it just puts up this big wall. So, even though it can be tempting, just don't be afraid.
I like that. That's great. So positive. I know. And that's what I love about these webinars, that hopefully it gives people a little energy, motivation moving forward. But that's really awesome. And thank you so much again, everyone. Now, I want to get to these questions. It looks like we have about 15 minutes and there's a lot coming in. So I apologize to all the attendees. I won't get through all of these, but I will jump in here and get going. Now, the first question, this is very popular. So Stephen, this is for you. What is the name of the agency-wide phone system platform that you're using?
So I wasn't sure if I could promo or not. We're using Dial. So it is a purely web-based platform. They support desktop, mobile. I actually have a desk phone. I'm a little old school like that. So all of that is all pulled together into Dialpad is the platform.
And what was it? Dialpad,
Dialpad.
Oh, awesome. I bet we're gonna have. You need to get a referral code in there. Go hit up Stephen after this for your referral code. And then, so another question here from Vicky. What if you are new and don't have any warm leads? What is the best way to market?
I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in, but I think in that if you don't have a warm lead, I don't think it's a bad thing to pursue cold leads. Again, just making sure you have the right verbiage. And then also might be a good thing if you have a community around you, within your friend group or your extended, friends and family circle, that can maybe be a good way to start getting some leads, through community events such as they are right now.
No, that's perfect. And so here's sorry, is there someone that said? Nope. Oh, there you go. So David had a question, and it's actually, Jen, you were just saying this. You mentioned the word travel shaming, which is really actually interesting because that is kind of a thing right now. And so David asked, how do you deal with social media blowback from people who think there should be non-essential travel right now?
That's a tough question. And I weighed that myself when I just traveled, quite frankly. And I caught a little bit of it, mostly private message. But I think my response is, this is my job. I'm down here to see what safety measures are in place. I'm down here to share with all of you so that you can know if that's something you feel safe doing. And I have always been very clear, even with my clients, listen, if you are not comfortable traveling right now, you shouldn't be traveling right now. If you are someone who is low risk, if you're someone who is a frequent traveler, you just love to travel and you're not afraid, this can be a great time for you, but it's not for everybody. And when I'm making this choice with other people who are making the same choice. So, and then I'm going to take the proper precautions when I get home, the physical distancing, my state unfortunately wants you to quarantine for 2 weeks, upon return, so I'm going to do all of those things. I'm going to wear my mask. I appreciate your concern. However, this is part of what I want to do. And it can be challenging, and you have to be ready to do that. And I think the other thing is make sure in every photo you are wearing a mask, because you will catch way more blowback if you are not wearing a mask or showing yourself in a big crowd of people. So just make sure your photos show the safety measures.
It's like instead of the Disney hat now, it's just the mask.
Right.
Some cool ears.
And make sure it's over your nose. Like you have to like the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I know those are what I'm sure everyone's afraid of getting to, is that. And so it's good to, have your mindset ready for that. So Amanda asked, do you feel like you're qualifying clients differently now? So and if you are, what types of questions are you asking now, that initial qualifying conversation with your potential client that you weren't asking pre-COVID?
So for us, it has changed. The qualification process has changed a little bit to be a lot more explanatory. Again, we touched on this earlier, but making sure that they know what they are going to experience when they get there. Nobody wants a surprise, and so being upfront, making sure that everyone knows exactly what is going to happen when they arrive at whatever the travel destination may be. That has both worked in our favor and against us, I guess, in a way. Just earlier this week, I was talking to a client who wanted to go November of 2021. And when I still take the time to explain everything, because you just never know what requirements or precautions will be in place then versus now. And as I was explaining everything, she goes, "Oh, like this is actually sounding really good. Keep talking." And I kept explaining, and she's like, "So you're telling me that there's low crowds because they have to make a reservation?" Yep. Can we go in September of this year instead of November of next? Absolutely, you can. Let's get you booked now. So I think just really being upfront is, again, showing your value, and letting them know what to expect has become a big part of our qualification process.
Well, and if, like you said, if they don't bite right away, though, shift them into something else, be willing to, don't be so regimented in what you've always sold and always think, just this one product. It's really about maintaining the client for life and making them happy and showing that your service, extends beyond just the mouse. So, yeah, roll with them, gauge and fill them out and really, be ready to pivot. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. That you might come in or they come in knowing, but might not realize that they don't know as much Disney about that the protocols and all that. So that is a really good point. So this kind of goes into that a little bit on the protocol. So Catherine asked, what are the policies in place for larger groups in dining? So what is it like for large families right now, and how do you deal with that?
The family I have down there right now is a large family. They are a party of 9 right now. I did not have an issue making their reservations. I want to say that though, if it was over 10 people right now, they're really wanting them to contact groups for Walt Disney World dining specifically. And again, I think it kind of goes into that whole CDC thing with, if there are part of the same family, they probably all live together or very closely together. I mean, I don't know that you can stop them from dining, but yeah, up to 10 we are able to do online, but over 10 they're really wanting you to call in to the groups department.
So another question here is from Melanie. And so we haven't really talked about Disneyland, so I'm excited to ask this question is, what do you tell people that want to go to Disneyland, or what did you tell them when Disney World wasn't open? Because she mentioned California-based agents are used to booking a lot of Disneyland, so it's hard right now.
Go ahead, Jen.
Like,
looking at me. I'm telling everybody, hang in there. It'll open back up.
Well, and Jen, I mean, you actually touched on this earlier is, the policies, the cancellation policy, the refund of your deposits. I mean, that's huge. So get them on the books for a future vacation, build excitement about that, and then fall back on and rely on those wonderful policies that they've been more lenient about. Because, I mean, it's kind of there's no risk involved.
Or if you can get them to go cross country to World, I mean, again, it's those cheaper policies. Hey, have you ever seen the Big Castle?
Yeah. Well, and again, Allison, if we could, yes, Allison, if we could just get the name of that crystal ball company, that would be fantastic.
Well, they'll be the next.
You all get that question of when is Disneyland going to open?
I'll ask Madame Leota. She's got to know, right?
Yeah, that'll be our next Travefy Academy speaker. I can't believe I didn't think about this. It's gonna be then we'll know. This will be perfect. So another question here. So this is from Maria, and this question is to Jennifer. So she said, I would like to know more deeply about Disney safety protocols, how is it being handled with Disney transportation to rides? How is a social distance working within these items?
That's that's an important point. They do have seats marked off that they don't allow you to sit in. So I did both Disney and Universal, so I know we're kind of trying to speak to Disney, but they do limit the number of people. I felt like it's hard to say, because you could always say that you waited forever for that bus to Magic Kingdom when everybody, you saw 3 Animal Kingdom buses. That can be in a, pre-COVID time. It just happened to work out that way. But it was a smaller group of people on there. They do clean, they do sanitize. I think before the bus comes back, they're stopping, they're sanitizing, and then they're limiting the number of people. Now with Universal, just for comparison, they had actual numbers on the seats. So they would see how many were in your party, and they would tell you which numbers to sit in. So they could have a larger party where, in the numbered seats that were 6, and then those blocked off so that there were separations. But it was an interesting, it was handled well. It was a lot of sanitizing and a lot of, just trying to give everybody their space.
If I could interject, I actually got to see the rides. Jennifer, you probably saw this too. The rides actually being sanitized while we were there. And that's happening very frequently. I think the most time it was 2 hours maybe in between, like for certain of the attractions. And I was impressed with how they did it. And, they were doing a really nice job in keeping everything spaced in the line as well. So important to note.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, Jennifer, earlier, that it's probably a lot cleaner than even going to the grocery store. So I think we just all need to go to Disney World instead of the grocery store. I think that's the big takeaway for me. It's a great idea. Why didn't we think of this? Yeah, exactly. But we're coming up right on time here. But I just want to thank everybody again so much for joining us here today. And thank you to our wonderful panelists. I'm going to, so you'll find for the attendees, you'll find all of their bios and websites on academy.travefy.com. So if you want to go check them out, go there and definitely let us know if you have any questions. And you'll be getting an email probably in about an hour with that recording there as well. But once again, thank you so much, panelists. And we hope that you have a magical rest of your day and your week. Got to keep on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. I think it's going. Might still hear me.